Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a minute, and by a minute I mean it's been like a month since I posted. I'm very sorry. I just have been very busy. You know, I have a job outside of YouTube because this does not support me. So I have a full-time job outside of YouTube, and then also just taking care of the animals and doing upgrades and stuff. You get busy. So sometimes YouTube just has to take the back burner. But I have filmed 4 videos today, so I should hopefully be back at it for a little while. But today I wanted to showcase a lot of my enclosures because this is the Better Care Challenge video, and I'm not sure who created this. I'm gonna find out before I post it, and I'll include their video down below. But there's tons of people who have done the Better Care Challenge already, and some people are like doing it as simple as just adding a couple things to an enclosure. Some people are upgrading enclosures, and I realized I have been Better Care challenging for a whole year, literally. Like, every enclosure I have except the bearded dragon enclosures has been upgraded, and the reason for that is I'm still doing upgrades, so they'll be purchased soon. I've gone bioactive, and then I fixed the bioactives that I hated and upgraded those, and then I upgraded gecko bookshelves and added new decor, and then I also upgraded the rat cage by adding more substrate and adding a whole 3rd level. I mean, I just feel like I've done a lot in terms of upgrading enclosures, and so I don't have anything left to do right now except Roku's, and that's going to be its own video on its own. But I'm going to go ahead here and showcase a lot of the upgrades I have made in comparison to what they looked like before. So I'll show the before photo, and then I'll show a video clip of the enclosure that all the animals are currently in. So, like, for example, I'll show the firebelly toads, what they lived in before they went bioactive, and then what they live in now, which is a bioactive polydarium. One last thing, this is not all of my enclosures. There are a number of bioactives that are not shown for a reason. 2 of them I have not featured on this channel. Actually, 3 of them I have not featured on this channel before. 3 of them are like in a little bit of maintenance. So there's more enclosures to be seen, and if you're interested, I'm going to post a video not too long after this one that's going to show off all of my bioactive enclosures, and I just think that'll be loads of fun to watch. So if you're interested, subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way when I post that video, you'll be notified. Or you can just follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I share the videos there, and then you can get notified that way, since YouTube notifications doesn't work half the time anyway. And without further ado, let's go ahead and show you guys my version of the Better Care Challenge, which is probably a little bit different than what you've seen, but I've already upgraded so many enclosures, so I'm just gonna put it here. I set up this aquarium back in October of 2018 and decided not long after that I wanted to upgrade it, but I just figured I should include this as well because it's part of the Better Care Challenge to upgrade your tanks, and that's what I did with this one. So this is a 10-gallon enclosure, or a 10-gallon aquarium, I should say. It has driftwood, it has some fake plants, a sponge filter, a heater, some live Anubias nana on the driftwood, and it also has some white Carib Sea Naturals sand. Unfortunately, the betta fish that you see here, Kakashi, did pass away just a couple months ago. He had a really bad tumor and had to be euthanized because of it, but his tank mates, which were African dwarf frogs, still inhabit the enclosure or the aquarium now, which is this 15-gallon aquarium. It still has the white Carib Sea Natural sand as well as some Anubias nana, but it has a lot more Anubias aside from just nana. And then it also has the fake plants from before, the sponge filter from before, the same heater. It's just generally a larger tank, and better than that, it has new driftwood. So the driftwood is Malaysian driftwood. It's 3 pieces, and my African dwarf frogs absolutely adore it. It also has some java fern and some moss balls, but it's pretty low maintenance on the plant side. Up next, I have a 24 by 18 by 12 Exoterra that is a completely water bottom with no substrate, some fake plants, and some Mag Naturals ledges attached to the side. This was an enclosure for my 4 firebelly toads, Cora, Asami Mako, and Bolin. Oh, and it also had a sponge filter laying on its side in the back corner. Throughout this clip, you're going to see my toads trying to escape. Please don't mind them, they just are very curious. So this is the same 24 by 18 by 12 Exoterra, it just has a polydarium built into it. It's a lot different looking than the last enclosure that you saw. Basically, I built this by using foam, expanding foam, silicone and eco earth, some sphagnum moss, some coconut fiber mats for the background, It was definitely more of a complicated thing, especially since it's my first paludarium I ever built. I plan on upgrading them to a larger one and then giving my young Bombina variegata this enclosure, but that'll take some time since they're still growing. But it has some large gravel, it has some Anubias nana, it has a bunch of different plants in the background. It has Anubias nana petite, it has lucky bamboo. It just has a lot going on that is way too much to say in this video, but I do have a video on how I built it, so I'll include that in the links below. So originally, my Chinese cave gecko Nymeria had a 3-sided 18 by 18 by 18 exoterra, and the 3-sided, I mean it had cork tile on each side, as well as some 2 fake plants, her exoterra hide that she came with, and then some cork flats and some cork rounds. This enclosure was not bioactive. However, the enclosure I'm about to show you was the first bioactive that I gave her. So this bioactive still featured the same cork tile sides and a lot of the same cork pieces, but I used a different type of substrate, which was Josh Schrag's ABG mix, as well as a drainage layer, to make it bioactive with the cleanup crew, yada yada, and some live plants. But then I was like, no, I hate it. I'm gonna do a DIY background, which is like my whole theme of last year, basically changing anything I had already done that was bioactive because I ended up liking another enclosure that I did better. It's been a whole year, y'all. It's been crazy. But so this is the current enclosure she's in, where it's still bioactive, but the better thing is it has a more interactive background. So it has a 3D background, which was made using various pieces of wood and cork and planter pots, as well as silicone. A spray foam, it's a great stuff expanding, that type of foam, and you know, basically how a DIY background is made. Obviously I'm not going to go into it in this video, but that's how I made this background. And people keep asking for a tutorial on how I did that. I will make one soon. I had a lot of like issues along the way, and I'd rather wait to put a video out than have to like redo it, just because I found a better way to go about doing something. So anyways, she has some neon pothos and some neon philodendron. I think it's called lemon philodendron, actually. I don't know. One of them's neon, one of them's lemon, but they're plants I can keep alive. And then this guy in the front is a philodendron Wendimby. So this was my first attempt at a bioactive for Neville, I think. So it had the bioactive substrate, which was a combination of eco earth and organic topsoil. And it also had leaf litter. It had the stream area, which is just basically a large Tupperware container with water that has a filter and like large river stones. And then it had the 3D tile walls. I keep calling it 3D tile. I mean to say cork tile walls. Had a cork hide and also had a cork planter that had a creeping Charlie in it. However, that creeping Charlie quickly died and I replaced it with a pothos, which you will see in the next clip. I completely forgot to mention that Neville was previously in a 24 by 18 by 12, and I wanted her to have a deeper substrate area, so I gave her this upgrade, which is a 24 by 18 by 18. So it's multiple inches worth of substrate that was able to be added to the enclosure. And while I was at it, I got rid of the flat cork tiles because I hated them and I wanted to create something 3D, more natural, more cool looking. So I used the same method of like cork and silicone, expanding foam, and eco earth to create the background. I also built her stream area into her enclosure so it would look more natural and just more awesome. It's the same size as before and it still has the same rocks and the same filter. It's just built into the enclosure. And then I still have the planted pothos that I mentioned before. She still has her cork hide and the substrate is still bioactive and it's still a combination of eco earth and organic topsoil. There's just a lot more of it. And then she still has her leaf litter too. This was my first attempt at a bioactive for my red-eyed crocodile skink Fugaku, and you can't see it really clearly here, but she has a pretty large stream area in the back corner where the bamboo is. But generally, I hated the flat background. I just really hated how it was hard to really access the enclosure with everything kind of just like crammed in there. I just really wanted to redo it, and so I did. And so this is a big upgrade because she went from a 24 by 18 by 12 to a 36 by 18 by 12, so it's a lot more space. The stream area is hard to see from afar, but I'll take you in for a closer look in a second. But basically this allowed for a lot more plants, allowed for a lot more space, and I gave her a DIY background because, like I said, I ended up hating anything that was flat and not like built into the enclosure. Really, really love how this one turned out. One of my favorite bioactives that I've built so far. The plants are killing it. Like, everything is great. I'm really, really happy. But yeah, basically the same elements as the last one. She still has the same type of cork and wood and yada yada. I'm sharing this bit with her stream area again because that little like arm, that cork arm from the background that goes into her water area, she likes to climb up inside of it and hide. So I just figured I'd tell you guys that because that's the only time I ever get to see her is when I look through that tiny opening, or if I find her in her hot hive. But most of the time she's in that tiny arm. I apologize in advance because I don't have any decent photos of my chubby frog or my tomato frog enclosures before I went through and fixed them, but they both had really similar elements, as you can see from this horrible screen grab from a YouTube video. But basically it had a flat background, it had a built-in stream area, and it had the bioactive substrate, but everything was just kind of boring in my opinion. But then I decided to go ahead, of course, and build a 3D background, and I took that driftwood and built it into the background, and I included planter pots, which worked out really well for Gamakichi's enclosure, which is the one you're looking at right now. He's my tomato frog. He actually is right there. Hi, Gamakichi. But yeah, it's still bioactive and it still has the same stream area, but the background really just pulls it all together because it allowed me to plant, which allows more green, obviously, and it's Philodendron Brazil and it's absolutely killing it in there. But unfortunately, the same can't be said for Chocho's enclosure. So let me just go ahead and show you Chocho's enclosure before. Again, very boring, a flat background, bioactive substrate, built-in stream area, yada yada. But her current one is boring as hell because she completely destroys live plants. Like, I cannot get her to keep anything alive. So I have the planter pots in the background, and as you can see, there's an empty hole on the right and barely a living philodendron on the left. It's because she digs her body into them and burrows. Alright, now we're on to the gecko bookshelves, and I first showed my gecko bookshelves back in September of 2018, and I had said in my how I built them video that I wasn't able to decorate them the way I wanted because I had just unexpectedly been laid off from my job as soon as I had gone ahead and built the gecko bookshelves, which was just really bad timing. Fortunately, I found a job not too long after, and I finished decorating the gecko bookshelves, but I never posted them on YouTube, and I don't know why, so here they are. Please don't ask me how I built these. I have a whole video about it. I will include it in the links below. But basically, in terms of decorating, I added more cork, I added ground foliage, I added basically just more to interact with, and everybody has 2 pieces of cork, 3 plants or more, and everyone has Reptile hammocks. And I just really like the way that they turned out. I think they look so much better when they're well decorated, and also it's better for the geckos because they have more enrichment. Next up, you're going to see a single gecko bookshelf, which again, it had 2 pieces of cork and it had hanging plants and Reptile hammocks and stuff like that, but it's still better decorated now, as you'll see in the next photo. But there's also 2 gecko bookshelves next to it, which are new bookshelves, and they house my enigmas. So the smaller ones on the sides house the enigmas. They have to be in smaller bookshelves. They don't do well in large bookshelves. So in addition to the bookshelves being new, a lot of the decor is new. Again, a lot of them have multiple pieces of cork, multiple hanging plants or ground plants. Basically the space is just filled better and allows for a bit more enrichment. And there's another one of the Enigma bookshelves. But I'll actually be upgrading these again in a few months, so stay tuned for that. Up next, you're going to see 2 gecko bookshelves that I don't even have anymore. I originally hated them. They didn't match the color well to the others. They just were a little bit more warmer toned, and I just decided I'm going to replace them. So when I built the 2 for the Enigmas, I also replaced these 2 with the same type, which are, as you can see here, 3 shelf instead of 4 shelf. So on the left are enclosures for the stunted growth geckos, and on the right are enclosures for my baby Theon, and then also Arya and Carsey. Now these are also going to be upgraded, so I will not have these like in the near future. Also, thank you for shaking during the audio, Jackson. Again, the decor is pretty much the same, and so is the construction, actually. They're built the same as the other gecko bookshelves. And next up, you're going to see my rat cage. So on the left is the rat cage I had previous to this one. As you can see, the one on the right is a whole third taller. But the one on the left and the right both incorporate something that's relatively new, which is like the massive amount of substrate. So I took clear pieces of acrylic and I fixed them to the cage to create like a really deep pan to allow for more substrate. So that's something I've been improving is my enrichment in my rat cages, and so I went from, you know, increasing the substrate, more natural elements or wood elements, and then I also just decided to add a whole third level to the rat cage, and now it almost touches my ceiling. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my version of the Better Care Challenge, the before and after shots. I am just really proud, like personally, of where my care has gone, like the level of effort that I put into Enclosures. I always feel bad because like people will shame other people for not doing the very best. I'm like, listen, people have not been keeping pets that long. Keep in mind, I've been keeping pets for 6 years. 6 years? 6 years now. And like, I didn't go bioactive until 6 years into it. So like, bioactive wasn't really a thing as far as I'm aware. So like, people are really pushy, and that's why I like this Better Care Challenge, because it can be anything. It can be something as simple as like, you know, adding a couple fake plants or pieces of decor to an enclosure just to add more enrichment, or you can go the full upgrading an enclosure bioactive route. I just think it's a really positive message to send, because people can be very opinionated and hateful. And I think that as long as you are taking good care of your animal, whether it's in a bioactive or not, whether it's in a custom build or not, whether it's in an aquarium or a tub, as long as you are giving it enrichment and giving it proper care, I think that everybody should just calm down, you know what I mean? Also, my hand moving scared me, and I thought there was a ghost in the background because it's reflecting off that thing. Anyways, now I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. Approach people with positivity. If you have any questions about the bioactives, leave them down below and I'll be sure to answer. And also feel encouraged to do this Better Care Challenge. I'm not going to challenge anyone because tons of people have done it already, and I'd probably be challenging people who've already done it and not realizing. But you watching, I challenge you to do it. And that's all for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!